Silence of the Heart, Robert Adams, Chapter 17. Feel in your heart that everything is an emanation of the mind. I was not born, I do not prevail, and I do not die. There is no cause, nothing exists. Have a deep feeling of what self realization is by negating everything that it is not. Not this, not that. A vision in reality. There are no problems. I want to let you in on a little secret. There are no problems. There are no problems. There never were any problems. There are no problems today, and there will never be any problems. Problems just mean that the world is not turning the way you want it to. But in truth, there are no problems. Everything is unfolding as it should. Everything is right. You have to forget about yourself and expand your consciousness until you become the whole universe. The reality in back of the universe is pure awareness. It has no problems, and you are that. If you identify with your body, then there is a problem because your body always gets into trouble of some kind. But if you learn to forget about your body and your mind, where is there a problem? In other words, leave your body alone. Just take care of it, exercise it, feed it the right foods, but don't think about it too much. Keep your mind on reality. Merge your mind with reality, and you will experience reality. You will live in a world without problems. The world may appear to have problems to others, but not to you. You will see things differently from a higher point of view. I had an interesting call this week. Someone asked me, do self-realized people dream or have visions? Now, in order to have a dream or a vision, there has to be somebody to have it. And yet, if you are self-realized, there is nobody home. There is nobody left. So it is a contradiction, as truth is. All truth is a contradiction. It is a paradox. The answer is sages do dream sometimes and have visions, but they are aware of the dreamer. In other words, they realize that they are not the person dreaming or having the visions. But as long as there is a body, there is some place. There will be dreams and visions. Even though there is no one home, there will still, once in a while, be a dream or a vision. As an example, Ramana Maharishi often dreamed and had visions. Nisargadatta dreamed and had visions. And they were both self-realized. But again, the question is, who dreams? Who has the vision? There is no ego left, as long as the dreamer is separate from the I. I can only speak from my own experience. There is no difference to me in the waking state and the dreaming state and the sleeping state or the vision state. They are all the same. I am aware of all of them, but I am not them. I observe them. I see them happening. As a matter of fact, sometimes I cannot tell the difference. Sometimes I don't know whether I am dreaming or awake or having a vision or if I am asleep. It is all the same because I take a step backward and I watch myself going through all these things. So for some reason lately, I have been dreaming about the Queen of England. She was coming to class or satsang. I don't know why, for about 8 nights in a row. But I did have an interesting vision this morning about 4 o'clock. And we will spend the rest of the time discussing it because I found it very interesting. As many of you know, I have had a constant vision periodically of myself going to Arunachala, a sacred mountain where Ramana Maharshi lived. And the mountain is hollow in the vision. And I go through the mountain to the center where there is a bright light, 1,000 times brighter than the sun, but yet it is pleasing and calm, and there is no heat. And then I meet Ramana, Jesus, Ramakrishna, Nisargadatta, Latsu, and others. And we smile at each other. We walk towards each other, and we melt into one light, and we become one. Then there is a blinding light and an explosion. And when I open my eyes, I have shared that with you before. But this morning, for the first time, I had a very interesting vision, which I will share with you again. I dreamed I was somewhere in an open field, a beautiful field. There was a lake nearby, trees, a forest, and I was sitting under a tree in an open field, and I had on the orange garb of renunciant. I must have been a Buddhist. All of a sudden, hundreds of bodhisattvas and mahasattvas come from the forest and start walking toward me. And they all sit down in a semicircle around me in meditation. And I wondered what I was doing. And then I realized that I had become Buddha. And we all sat in silence for about 3 hours. One of the bodhisattvas got up and asked a question. He said, "Master, what is your teaching?" It was not in English. I don't know what language he spoke, but I understood it quite clearly. And without hesitation, I said, "I teach self-realization of noble wisdom." And he sat down. We sat for about another 3 hours in silence, and then another bodhisattva got up and asked a question. "Master, how can you tell when one is close to self-realization? How can you tell one is about to become self-realized? How does one tell?" And this is what I would like to discuss today. How can we tell if we are on the path correctly? I gave 4 principles which I really never do in the awakened state. I never have a teaching, but I was given a teaching, so I will share it with you. I explained the 4 principles where you know that you are close to self-realization. Of course, we are already self-realized. But anyway, I explained these 4 principles to the bodhisattvas and the mahasattvas. Then we sat 3 hours in meditation, and they got up and walked back to the forest. Then there was a flash of light, and I opened my eyes. So the first principle: if you have a feeling, a complete understanding that everything you are, everything in the universe, in the world, emanates from your mind, in other words, you feel this, you do not have to think about it or try to bring it on. It comes by itself. It becomes a part of you. The realization that everything that you see, the universe, the people, the worms, the insects, the mineral kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, your body, your mind, everything that appears is an emanation of your mind. You have to have that feeling, that deep understanding without trying to. So you ask yourself, what do I think about all day long? Of course, if you fear something, if you worry, if you believe something is wrong somewhere, if you think you are suffering from lack or limitation or sickness or anything, then you are out of it completely. because you are not understanding that all of these things are simply a manifestation of your mind. And if you worry about these things, you become attached to the false imagination. That is called false imagination. You have been attached to this habit energy for many, many years. And all these attachments and beliefs come from this habit energy. Everything your senses show you is an emanation of your mind. You are projecting a picture, just like you're projecting a moving picture, and everything you see right now in this room comes from your mind. You may say, how can we collectively see the same thing? That is because of the habitual energy that we are brought up in. So collectively, we seem to be seeing the same thing, the same picture. It's like watching a TV show and becoming one of the characters. When you know that you are not even in the TV, but you believe that you are one of the characters in the TV show. So it is with the world. Do not get involved. I don't mean you become passive. I mean your body does what it does and what it's supposed to do. Remember, your body came to this earth to do something. It will do something without our knowledge. It will take care of itself, so don't worry. But do not identify with your body. They are different. Your body is not yourself, and I will prove this. When you refer to your body, what do you say? Don't you say my body? Who is this my you're referring to? You say my finger, my eye. Who is this my you're referring to? You could be talking about your body. You couldn't be talking about your body because you are saying it's my body. Like you own it. Who owns it? This proves to yourself that you are not your body. So do not identify yourself with the body and the world. The first sign, you are feeling happiness. Therefore, the first principle to see how close you are to self realization is you are not feeling that you are identified with the world. You are separate and you are feeling happiness because your natural state is pure happiness. Once you identify with worldly things, you spoil it. The happiness disappears, it dissipates. But when you are separate from the worldly things, happiness is automatic, beautiful, pure happiness. It comes by itself. So that is the first principle. Think about that. Everything in the universe, person, place, or thing, everything, your body, your thoughts, creation, God, everything you can think about, everything, and I mean everything, is a projection of your own mind. If you really understand this, how can you have a problem? But you say, well, my rent is due on the 1st and I don't have the money, so how can this help me? You would be amazed at what it does for you. Do the trees lack leaves? Do the flowers fail to bloom? If you could realize the truth that everything is an emanation of your mind, you would become yourself, and yourself is omnipresent. It includes everything for the survival of your body. Think about that. Your body comes from your mind. But as long as you believe your body is yourself and you understand that it comes out of your mind, but as long as you believe your body is yourself and you understand that it comes out of your mind, it will be provided for, just like leaves are provided for the trunk of a tree. So this teaching is quite predictable, and it can be used to improve your humanhood. Not by trying to improve your humanhood directly. That is where you have all your problems, but by forgetting about your humanhood and realizing everything is a mental projection. Again, what happens when you realize that the whole universe is a manifestation of your mind? You become omnipresent. And in the omnipresent is contained all your needs. And all your needs are met from within. But when you start worrying or thinking about it, you spoil it. Then you have to do human things to take care of yourself. But if you leave the humanhood alone and go back to the understanding that it is all in your mind, you automatically let go of your mind and the self takes over, bringing the right people into your life, the right situations, the right address. Remember again, your body came to this earth because of karma and is going to go through whatever it has to go through, but you have absolutely nothing to do with that because you are not your body. But if you think about it, you spoil it. Subsequently, allow your body to do whatever it came here to do. Do not interfere. Do not fight. Simply observe. Do not react, and you will be okay. The morning assertion. See, the secret is to think about these things as soon as you open your eyes in the morning. As soon as you open your eyes, what do you think about? You think about food, you think about your day, you think about work, you think about money, you think about friends, relationships, but you do not think about your mind being a projection of all the things that happen. Therefore, you have to think about the right things in the morning. As soon as you awaken, don't wait. How do you work with these principles? As soon as you open your eyes in the morning, I'll speak in the first person. You have to say to yourself, I feel and realize and understand that everything is a projection of my mind. Think about what that means. Forget about the other three. Work on that. I feel that I understand that everything is a projection of my mind. Then you may think about your problems, if you have any. And you say to yourself, if everything is a projection of my mind, where do these problems come from? Then you realize why they came from me. I projected them. I created them. Then you say, who is this I that created them? Now you're getting to the meaty part, to the substance. Who is the I that created all these illusions in my life? Where did the I come from? Who gave it birth? My mind. Where did my mind come from? The I. They're both the same. The I and the mind are the same. It's a revelation. You think along these lines, where did the I come from? And to whom does it come? You follow it deep, deep within yourself. And if you do it correctly, you will realize that there is no I, there is no mind. So there are no problems. It will be over and you will start laughing. You will actually start laughing at yourself. You will start to think, I fear this, I fear that. Once you get in that consciousness, something will happen to actually physically relieve you of that problem or what you think is that problem. As long as you believe in your mind that there is a problem, whether it is a big or little one, it does not matter. You think along these lines that you have a problem, you will have a problem. It will grow and you cannot change it. It may appear that you change it, but it turns into something else or worse. Then you try to work out the problem. You never try to work with the problem, but ask where the problem came from. That's the problem. The birth is the problem because you believe you are born, you have the problem, and you go on and on and on, making more problems. That's how to work with the principles. I feel, I understand that everything is a projection, a manifestation of my mind. Whose mind? My mind. Whose mind? My mind. Who am I? Who has this problem? And you ask yourself this question, you'll begin to feel better and better and better. You will actually begin to feel better. And and as you begin to feel better, the problem becomes less and less important. And then it will vanish. This is great psychotherapy. It works. If psychiatrists gave this to their patients, they would not have to give them any drugs. Bliss, happiness, peace, love, joy come by themselves. It should be like second nature to you. When it is second nature to you, then you're going to find true happiness in your life and reach your goals. But when you have to think about it first, it means your mind is impressed with something else. You have got to have other thoughts and that you're thinking all this other stuff all the time. The first principle, again, is that everything, I mean, everything, the universe, the world, your body, your fears, your problems, your happiness, everything that you can think about, everything that your senses behold is a manifestation of your mind. It is a mind quality. When you close your eyes, it goes away. When you sleep, you transcend it. But when you are awake, the world exists. The world only exists because your mind exists. And your mind exists because your ego exists. Therefore, when you begin to work on yourself and you begin to realize that everything comes from your mind, you stop fearing and you change your mind and you stop worrying and you realize it is of the mind. And as you begin to change your mind, transcend your mind, annihilate the mind, bliss, happiness, peace, love, joy, truth come by itself. It is the mind that is your enemy. What is your mind? It is the conglomeration of thoughts about the past and the future. You worry about the past and you worry about the past and you worry about the future. That is all your mind is. It is not your friend. Therefore, ignore your mind. Do not believe what it says. Simply watch it, behold it, become the witness to it. But just realize that everything is an emanation of your mind. That alone sets you free. So again, I ask you, what do you remember? You remember your personal problems. You remember your needs. You think you are human. You think about the body continuously. That is why there is trouble with self-realization. So you have got to investigate your mind and watch it all the time. See what is going on with you. Watch how it controls you. It makes you emotional. It makes you believe something is wrong. It makes you angry. All these things come from the mind. The idea is to be aware of this. The awareness alone leads to the light. Just being aware of it alone. You do not have to know any book knowledge. Just be aware of what your mind really is. That is how you conquer your mind. By being aware of it and no longer responding to it, no longer to react to the mind. Something that usually makes you angry, before you even respond, you would want to win the argument. But now your reaction is not reaction. You simply smile and you watch it. When your mind sees that there is no response, it will become weaker and weaker until it disappears. It is just like arguing with a person. What happens if you stop arguing? The person goes away. They don't know what to think. They just won't have anything to do with you. So they just leave. So when you stop responding to your thoughts, your mind will go away and it'll become weaker and weaker and weaker until there is no mind. You understand, you feel that everything is an emanation of your mind, or it would not exist. For instance, from the smallest nothing to the greatest cosmic galaxy, it all comes out of your mind. However, even if I tell you this, you will still feel that something is real, don't you? You feel that something is real. You may say, Well, but the sun is real. You may say that God is real. You may say that the atoms are real, but you do not comprehend that you are creating these things. They are all a projection of your mind. If you did not have a mind, you would not have these concepts. That is why we have to annihilate the mind, to kill the mind. No mind, no concepts. And you have to practice self-inquiry by realizing that everything comes out of the mind, asking yourself, what is my mind? Where did it come from? And you will realize that I is the mind. I is also the mind. Because you say, I think. Don't you see? I think. And the mind is thoughts. So we get back to the I again. We always come back to the I. Subsequently, again, if you want to remove your mind, remove the I. You ask yourself again, if the mind is I, then where did I come from? What is the source of this I? Who am I? You always get back to the I. Everything leads to the same thing, doesn't it? All the processes we use to lead to the same thing, this I. So the first principle, the whole universe is a projection of my mind. Then you say, my mind, whose mind? I am referring to my mind. And then again, you tell yourself, I am referring back to this I. I'm referring to my mind. Again, you go back to, where did this I come from? Who created it? What is its source? Who gave it birth? And you keep questioning this way again and again and again. And as I said before, with most people, one day there will be an explosion and the I will blow itself to bits. And you will see light, tremendous light, and you will become light in the light of 1,000 suns. But that is still not the answer. You have to go through the light into emptiness, into nirvana, into absolute reality, which is called Parabrahma. Nothingness. That nothingness becomes everything. Principle 2. You have to have a strong feeling, a deep realization that you are unborn. You are not born. You do not experience a life, and you do not disappear. You do not die. You are not born. You have no life, and you do not die. You have to feel this, that you are of the unborn. Do not realize what it means. There is no cause for you to exist. There is not cause for your suffering. There is no cause for your problems. You exist as bliss consciousness, but you do exist. Some of you still believe in cause and effect. This is true in the relative world, but in the world of reality, there is no cause. Nothing has ever been made. Nothing has ever been made. Nothing has ever been created. There is no creation. I know it's hard to comprehend. How do I exist if I was not born? I have no life, and I do not disappear into old age. You exist as I am. You have always existed, and you will always exist. You exist as pure intelligence, as absolute reality. That is your true nature. You exist as Sat Chit Ananda. You exist as bliss consciousness, but you do exist. You exist as emptiness, as nirvana, but you do exist. So don't worry about being non-existent. But you do not exist as the body. You do not exist as a person, place, or thing. Do not feel that. If you have a strong feeling about that, then you are close to self-realization. Now go to the second principle and work on it. just like the first. The second principle is I perceive, I feel, I understand that I was never born. I am unborn. I do not prevail. My existence does not exist, and I will never disappear. Student, can you say I perceive or understand I am unborn before the mind fully accepts it? Robert, whatever you can work with to let yourself know that you perceive or understand or feel. Student, would it be most honest to say I am beginning to perceive? Robert, there is no beginning. You can say there is something within me that perceives and something within me that knows that I was never born. I do not prevail and I will never disappear. I am that one that knows. Start working on that. What does this I was never born mean? I am unborn. It sounds like a contradiction because you believe your father and mother gave you birth. This appears to be true. The bottom of this page is a footnote. The footnote says, when the nothing becomes everything, everything is bliss reality. There is no ego left to pronounce this to anyone. There is no inkling of an outer announcement. You simply become a better human being in the human world. You are an asset to humanity. You're more loving, benevolent, kind. You become an embodiment of loving kindness. Who gave you birth? My grandmother, my grandfather, it goes all the way back. Who gave them birth? You go back to the beginning, way to the first man and the first woman. Where did they come from? Who started this? Who started the human race? Who started the idea of birth? Now, don't answer because the mind will create answers. Adam and Eve, God, somebody told you that. But is it true? Where did God come from? Go back to the beginning. It is like asking who came first, the chicken or the egg, the tree or the seed, the man or the woman, who made them. You realize that they do not exist. Nothing gave them birth. The whole origin of birth is false. It is a dream. It does not exist. Therefore, I do not exist the way I appear to be. Then go back to the first premise. Who am I? You always go back to self-inquiry. Who am I that exists? If I am not the body, I am not my thoughts. I cannot be my thoughts because they keep changing and changing. Then who am I? Keep silent for a while. You start to feel a peace that you have never felt before. You start to feel that all is well. The result is happiness you have never felt before. If you do this often enough, you will feel a happiness that you have never felt before, and you won't care if a bomb is dropped on your head. You would feel this happiness because you would know that you cannot die. Right now, these are just words. You will actually know someday that you cannot disappear. Nothing can kill you. Kill is just a word, it means something that you accepted. We make up words and we put feelings behind them. Listen to the word kill. It sounds ridiculous. The word itself has no power except the power that you gave it. When the mind is silent, then reality comes of its own accord. When you are thinking and thinking, the world has got you and you become worldly again. Self-inquiry causes the mind to be quiet. After you work on that, you go on saying, I do not prevail. You say to yourself, you mean that my entire existence since I was a baby until I die means nothing. Then you say to yourself, I have just proven I was not born. If I was never born, how can I prevail? What prevails? Who prevails? You will see that it is the mind that prevails. The mind wants existence, wants strength, it wants power. It makes you believe that you are a body. Ask yourself, to whom does this mind come? Who gave it birth? What is its source? Then keep still. Have a deep feeling and a realization that you are unborn, that you do not prevail, and you will never disappear. You will never die. Think about that. Just to think to yourself that you are unborn. There is no cause for your birth. The cause does not exist. There is no reason for your birth. You never were born. And as far as your existence is concerned, it is not there. You do nothing and you do not get older. You do not disappear and you do not die. Think about that. How free you will become when you understand what this means. It is a beautiful feeling to know that you were never born. I mean, the real, the eternal you, what you really are, was never born. That you, what you think is you, never existed, but not the way that you have always existed. You have always existed, but not in the way that you think. Your life, as it is right now, whatever you think you are doing, however important you may be, it is total meaningless. Why? Because it will be gone soon. So whatever you are getting into, whatever excites you, is only for a time. Take Elvis Presley. People still remember him. But will anybody remember him in 500 years? Take your great classical musicians, concertos, Bach, Schubert, everybody else, Rachmaninoff, Rachmaninoff. They are important to you right now, but 500 years from now, nobody will remember them at all. Everything will be different, and it will be like you're living in another universe. So the point is, if you get too involved in those things, you are missing the mark because you are not understanding the real nature. You are not understanding who you really are. You should be searching for the meaning to yourself and spend 80% of the time doing that. I know it is not easy to do for some people because they seem to be involved in life, but yet you can do it. It does not matter. You don't have to set aside time for meditation. You can do it while you are driving your car, while you are at work, while you are playing music. Just be aware of the self, of who you really are, and realize that the rest is a projection of your mind. We are not born, we have no existence, and we do not die. There is no disappearance. To be aware of this truth sets you free. Just to be aware of them. Student. So, how would you summarize it? That we are non existent or that we have no beginning or end? Robert. Both are right. We have no cause. Student. So, you're saying that existence implies a relative cause and existence only takes place in a relative world, and we are not really a part of it. Robert. Yes, exactly. Student. In non existence? Robert. Non existence also does not exist. Student. But then couldn't you say that the mind doesn't exist? I mean, you say that everything that exists. Robert. Nothing that you can explain exists. Student. But earlier you said that everything emanates from the mind. Yes, you're projecting the picture. Student. But then you have a mind? Robert. You don't have a mind. Student. I think he means everything in earth. I think he means everything in the earth plane world. Robert, in the relative world, in reality, there is no mind. That is how the picture appears. The mind projects the whole universe. So, if you get rid of the mind, there is no universe. We have to kill the mind, and the whole universe is annihilated because it is the mind that projects the universe and tells us all these stories. Think for a moment of all the problems that you believe you have. Think of what is bothering you. You can tell me your story for hours. This is wrong. That is wrong. All this is going on. It's bad. It's terrible. It is all a projection of your mind. So by getting rid of the mind, everything stops and beauty, joy, and bliss ensues. But You are covering the beauty and joy and bliss when you worry, when you fear, when you think something is out of place somewhere. Student, when you say you are unborn or you will never die, would that be the same as saying that nothing exists? Yes, it is. Nothing as you think or as it appears to exist. It appears to exist, but so does a dream. A dream appears very real, but is there a creation in a dream? Is there an end? Everything just begins and ends when you wake up. The world is the same. Student, you should say nothing exists because even exists is an idea. What is left is everything. You are left as yourself, humble, compassionate, loving. I am that. Robert, it is an idea. It has got to go at the end. In the beginning, when you were finding the self, you realize that I exist. I am that I am. Means I exist. Same. But when you find out who the I that exists and you follow it through, and that has got to go, everything has got to go. Now, the average person will think, what is left? There's another little footnote down here at the bottom of this page. It says, again, I will tell you, focus on only which is eternal. Do not say, this world does not exist, I do not exist. Say, bliss, love, consciousness exists as the self. And become the embodiment of that which is. When you realize this, a great tenderness occurs. You perfect the dream. You do not deny it. How? By making others happy, perfecting your humanhood. This life may be a dream, but it can be a joyful one. Okay. So what is left is everything. You are left as the self. Everything goes, and that is beyond explanation. Then you turn back to yourself and you become humble, compassionate, loving, because you're aware that you are the whole universe, and you can say, all this is the self. I am that. Student, is this an experience? Robert, that is an experience. It is beyond experience. It is revelation that stays with you all the time. That can be called Sahaja Samadhi, when you abide in the self all the time, but is ineffable. It is beyond words. Student, the experience does not matter how deep. Robert, there's no such thing as deep. Deep is a concept. You are either that or you're not. See if you remember these things. It will carry you across the ocean of samsara into the land of self-realization. But you have to think of these things all the time. The second principle is this: you are the unborn. You do not prevail and you do not disappear. In other words, you were never born. The life that you are experiencing does not exist and you do not die. You have always been. What I am saying is there's no cause for anything. As an example, we speak about creation. How did creation begin? What is its causes? Of course, the Bible will tell you about Adam and Eve. That is a nice story if you like stories. But if you are talking about reality, it just began out of nothing. What came first, the chicken or the egg? You can say to me, I was born. My mother and father gave me birth. Well, then go all the way back. Who was the first mother and father? Just like what came first, the tree or the seed, is perplexing. The best way to explain it is to take a look at your dreams. How do you create your dreams? Does it start with a beginning? As soon as you start dreaming, there is no creation. The dream just starts. Everything is already there: the trees, the sky, the earth, the flowers, the grass, the people, insects, birds, flowers. Everything just appears. Does it die in the end? You just wake up and it is all gone. What we are doing now is living in the mortal dream. We believe in our bodies, in our existence, as it were. We believe the world is real, the mind is real, our experiences are real, and we get involved in them like we get involved in our dreams. You know, you are not the movie that you're watching. You watch the movie, it ends, and you go home. The more you get involved in the world situations and in yourself, the small self, your body, your mind phenomena, the more you get pulled into ignorance. You have chosen yourself from this Maya, and think about every day you are unborn. You have no personal life. You do not exist, and you will not disappear. Just thinking about these things does something to you. You begin to feel different. You begin to feel alive, but not as a body, as omnipresence. Moses said, "I am that I am." You begin to understand that Moses said when he said, "I am that I am." You begin to feel free, untarnished. Your past is dissolved because it never existed to begin with. You have no past. You have no cause. It is all a manifestation of your mind. As you think about this, you become totally free. Free. Principle 3. You are aware and you have a deep understanding of the egolessness of all things, that everything has no ego. I am not only speaking of sentient beings, I am speaking of the mineral kingdom, the vegetable kingdom, the animal kingdom, the human kingdom. Nothing has an ego. There is no ego. And do you realize what this means? It means that everything is sacred. When there is no ego, you have reverence for everybody and everything. Everything is God. Only when the ego comes does God disappear. What we call God, everything becomes God. You have reverence for everything. When there is no ego, you have reverence for everybody and everything. So you have to be aware of the egolessness of all things. Animals have no ego. Minerals have no ego. Vegetables have no ego. The humans have no ego. There is no cause, so there cannot be effect. There is only divine consciousness. So if you look at your fellow man, at animals, at everything else as being egolessness, you will see them as yourself. Can't you see that? Focus on your permanent self. It is the ego that causes separation. When I am full of ego, I become strong within myself. I become totally separate. So the more you like yourself as a person, the bigger your ego is. You say, well, I am not supposed to like myself. You are supposed to love yourself. But what are you talking about? We are talking about your body self, because that comes and goes. We're talking about the permanent self that has always been here. And your permanent self is me. It is you. It is the world. It is the universe. It is everything. That is your permanent self. Egolessness. That is the only time that you can love your fellow human beings, when you have no ego. That is how you can tell where you are at, if you are close to self-realization. That is principle number 3. Something in me understands the egolessness of all things. All these principles are alike. Did you come to that conclusion yet? They all have the same source, nothing. But you have to work with them until you have the same source, nothing. But you have to work with them until you get there. I feel and understand the egolessness of all things. You say all things, not just some things, but all things, from the greatest galaxy to the minute nest atom. Nothing has an ego. If it has an ego, it has a source, because if it has an ego, there has to be a source. And just to realize that this great truth, you become free immediately. It blows your mind. It's like a Zen koan. All of a sudden, something snaps in your mind, and your mind is gone beyond, because it has no source. Since there is no ego, it never existed. And you feel good. Everything is egoless. Not only human beings, but everything. Mountains, trees, the sun, nothing has an ego. That means that it has no existence. So where did it come from? When you have a dream, where does the dream come from? The same place, from nowhere, from false imagination. Student, I don't understand the expression false imagination, because the word imagination implies a certain falsity. Robert, you are imagining a false world and a false ego. Student, that is sort of paradoxical saying. Robert, sure, it is all paradoxical, because it does not exist. But that is how we imagine it. This is the reason I always go back to the sky is blue. Somebody takes me outside and says, "Look at the beautiful blue sky," and I agree with him, but I also know deep inside of me that that is not true. There is no sky, and there is no blue to it. The blue does not exist. Or an oasis in the desert, it looks like water, but it does not exist. It is a mirage. The world is the same thing. The universe only exists in the dream state. It is like a dream. Student, can I say I am not in the body? Robert, yes, you can say that. That's why I tell you not to use that too much, because it makes it too personal. You are still into yourself as an individual. What does all this do for me? A better artist, musician. When you read in textbooks that I am not the body, I'm not the mind, they're referring to the universal body, the universal mind. There is no body, no body. Nobody exists. Such ridiculousness, this is ridiculous to the average person. You may say, what does this all do for me? What does everything? It does everything for you. If you are creative in music, art, or anything else, you will become a better musician, a better artist, without even wanting to, without going after it. Your body will do what it's supposed to do. There will be no karmic attachment. As an example, if you are a great artist, or a great musician, or a great carpenter, or a great loafer, or a great homeless person, and you go after it humanly, this is what is holding you to this earth. And you are going to have to come back again and again and again, because you made yourself earthbound. Don't you see? It is because you know I am my brother and my brother is me. Everything that you attach yourself to pulls you back to this earth, whether it is good or bad. If you hate something, it is the same as if you love something. It pulls you back to this earth. You have to let it go. It is just that you're letting go because you know my brother and my brother is also me, because I am everything. Egolessness is the basis of everything. Everything has no ego. No, I am not just talking about sentient beings, everything. The mineral kingdom, there is no cause for anything to just exist, like the dream again. The ego is what makes something real. That is the cause of your body function, the ego. So if there is no ego, there is no lack. There is no limitation. There is no sickness. There is no death. There is nothing like that. Student, are the ego and the mind the same thing, or are you making a distinction? Robert, they are synonymous in a way. Take for instance, you have got a sickness of some kind. If you realize that there is no ego in back of it, then there is no cause. Where did it come from? It did not come from anything, so it does not exist. Student, so could you also say nothing exists? Robert, but is it meaningful for you when you say that? See, it has to be meaningful for you. If you say nothing exists, your mind and your ego will come and they'll fight and say, what do you mean? Look at this chair, it's solid. It exists, so you become disappointed. But when you understand the entire principle and everything is egolessness, everything, then you just exist in the moment, just like that. You exist in the second, in the moment, in that moment, all is well, and everything is unfolding as it should in that moment. But as soon as you start thinking, then there is a cause. Student, so the only cause is the thinking process? Robert, exactly. And you may think it is hard to think like that, to be like that, but it is not. Just by remembering the egolessness of all things, you wake up and you become free. You are born again. All is glory and joy. You have had a deep realization and a deep feeling that nothing has an ego. Nothing has a cause. Again, there is no reason for anything to be. Nothing really exists. You are not a sinner and you are not an evil person. Your past is dead. Forget it. You are born again now, and all is glory and joy. This is what it means to be born again. You realize that you exist now in this moment, not a moment ago, and never mind what is going to happen a moment from now. But you exist in this moment as pure intelligence, unqualified love, absolute reality, unconditioned oneness. That is you. You live in that reality. And again, it sets you free. Principle 4. Principle number 4 is simply like this: you have a deep conviction, a deep understanding, a deep feeling of what realization of noble wisdom truly is. What is self-realization of noble wisdom to you? Question mark. You can never know by trying to find out what it is, because it is absolute reality. You can only know by finding out what it is not. So you say, it is not my body, it is not my mind, it is not my organs, it is not my thoughts, it is not my world, it is not my universe, it is not the animals, the trees, the moon, the sun, the stars, it is not any of those things. When you have gone through everything and there's nothing left, that is what it is. Nothing. Emptiness, nirvana, ultimate oneness. You say, I perceive and understand what realization is. I know something within me understands and feels what self-realization is. And you keep still. Believe me, the answer will come to you. The only way you can find out is through negation. So you can say to yourself, it's not the sun, because the sun is a projection of my mind. It is not the moon, because the moon is a projection of my mind. Same thing. It is not my husband or my wife. It is not my body or my organs or my job. It is not peace. It is not war. Everything you name, it is not. When you get tired of naming things, you keep silent. And that is what it is. Everything is silence. The 4 principles and the silence are the same. Now, what is the number 4? Student, it has something to do with we are nothing. Robert, laughing. Everything has to do with that, but it is actually to have an understanding and a deep realization of what self realization of noble wisdom is. Student, and how is noble wisdom defined from regular wisdom? Robert, it is the same thing. It is a Buddhist expression. Student, they have all these real long expressions and then they say what it is. Robert, the Eightfold Path, and then they take years explaining it. I'm joking, of course, but when you get into the highest teaching, there is no thing. So the fourth one is the only way to know what self-realization is by knowing that it is not. And whatever is left, that is what it is. So you say, it is not the body, it is not the mind, it's not the organs, it's not my thoughts, it's not the world, the sun, it's not the universe, it's not God, it's not creation. And you go on and on. When you get out of breath and out of words, that is what it is. Student, is that what expression neti neti means? Robert, yes. Student, is it boring? If all that goes away and there is nothing? Robert, no. See, that is what people think. That is why I explained before. The mind will make you say that because it does not want to be annihilated, it wants to rule you and control you completely because that is its nature. That is the nature of the mind that does not exist. Student, when you are meditating, you are totally separate from this physical world. Robert, then who is meditating? When I am meditating personally, well, I do not usually meditate. I sit sometimes with my eyes closed, but I just rest my eyeballs. Student, because no one is there, right? Robert, there has to be someone to meditate. That does not mean you should stop meditating. It means you should look at these 4 principles and compare them to where you are yourself and work on yourself so that you can apply these principles to yourself every day until the day comes when you don't have to talk about it any longer. You just become total manifestation of those principles. You just realize you become aware of. Now that's the 4th principle. Student, none of these principles exist. Robert, right. You're right. I usually don't do this, but I'm giving these principles to you to try to help. Laughter. Right. They don't exist, but as long as you believe that you are a body and that your body exists, they exist. As long as you feel that the world exists and the mind exists, then these principles also exist. And karma exists and God exists and creation exists. You have to have a strong feeling and realization of what self-realization means and what is the only way you can do that. Remember, student, to practice the other 3 principles. Robert, that helps by realizing what it is not. You cannot know what self-realization is because you are already that. But you can know what it is not. So by eliminating everything, then what is left is the self. That is self-realization. You cannot explain it, so you negate it. In other words, you think of what it is not. What is not self-realization? And it is not the world, it is not the universe, it's not my body, it's not anything that I can think about. Whatever answer comes to you is wrong, for it has not an answer. There are no words that can describe it. Forget about your intelligence. Human intelligence sucks. It does not exist. Why? Because it dies with you. We are talking about something that is eternal, that has also been and will always exist. You have to become aware of these principles. I give you these things with great compassion. that you have something to do every day besides watching TV, reading books. Think, but not intellectually. This is not a formal talk. I can only tell you about my own experiences, not what I read. I can only tell you that nothing exists the way it appears. Everything is appearance. The trap is that we get pulled into appearances. We react to it. We feel hurt. We feel slandered. We feel something is wrong. We have negative emotions because we are falling for the false premise that the world, in fact, is real. But the world is not real, and neither are you. And we have to stop reacting to anything. Whew. Man, this is a long chapter. I don't think I can read anymore. I'm starting to lose my voice. And there are several more pages to go. I'll have to change the title of this to part 1 and part 2 of chapter 17. Ugh. I'll just mark it here. And then I'll do a part 2 on another day. Because I'm beat. Ugh. All right. Thank you so much for listening. I love you. I'm reading this book to myself because we're all one self. The ultimate, the supreme source is reading to itself. When I send love, I'm sending love to myself. And one of the practices that I do is that I feel like the I that Robert's always talking about, the Kylie, my name is Kylie, so the Kylie in me arises from causes and conditions. So because I hear, I see, I smell, I taste, I feel, I believe that I am this Kylie in this body. So when I start analyzing that actually my senses create this illusion of an ego. When Robert says we're all in a dream, we are all oneness. We are the creator of the dream, and we are all the characters in the dream. So just like in a dream at night, what I always thought was weird is when I'm dreaming and there's a knock at the door in my dream, I get up and I start walking towards the door to open it. I don't know who's on the other side of that door. I always found that so fascinating because I'm the one that's dreaming the dream. I am the dream. The dream is taking place in my head, let's say. And so I'm dreaming myself, I'm dreaming a room, I'm dreaming a door, and I'm dreaming somebody knocking on the door. However, when I'm walking towards the door, I have no idea who's on the other side of that door, even though it's my dream and I'm creating every aspect of that dream. If you ask me in the dream, who's at the door? I wouldn't know. I would say, I don't know. Let's go open the door and find out. So that's just like the world, you know. I'm creating this world, this room, the sunlight, this computer, and if somebody knocks on the front door and I get up to go answer it, I don't know who's on the other side of that door. So this reality is very much like a dream. And in a dream, I create a character for myself, an avatar for myself. And because that avatar is seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and feeling, it feels very real. And so I believe that I am myself in that dream because of the senses. So the senses give me the illusion that I am that avatar in my dream. So it's the same thing here in this dream. Is I'm not, the Kylie doesn't really exist. Kylie is just a name my mother gave me when I was born. And this body exists in a dream world. And because of this body, because it's seeing, smelling, tasting, hearing, feeling, there arises from those causes and conditions, there arises something observing, something seeing, something smelling, something tasting, something hearing. And that ego that is experiencing the senses, I've named Kylie. And so I think that this is real, that this egoic structure that does the seeing, does the hearing, does the tasting, does the smelling, does the feeling, the experiencer of those things is what I call Kylie. And this voice in my head that tells me to send an email, that I need to call so and so, that I screwed up and I did something bad and I need to prove myself and I need to do more, I need to do less, I need to turn right, I need to turn left. That constant chatter in my head, it may or may not be this experiencer, but I also think that I name that also Kylie because I think those are Kylie's thoughts. So because of causes and conditions of being this avatar in this dream, there's hearing that is happening, there's seeing that is seeing, there's tasting that is tasting, there's smelling that is smelling, there's touch that is touching. It gives me this feeling of solidity, that there is something inside this body that is experiencing all these things from my senses. So it gives me this illusion that I am this Kylie. And then there's this voice that's going on in my head at all times saying, I need to go feed the dogs. Should I wear this shirt or another shirt? What am I going to do tomorrow? I have to, do chores, or I have to wash clothes, I have to buy groceries. Driving down the road, all these thoughts are, this avatar brain is a thought making machine. And so I become identified with the Kylie-ness that's experiencing those thoughts, that are hearing those thoughts. I think they're Kylie's thoughts. But in reality, a dream body with a dream mind having dream thoughts with the dream senses, there's an illusion of Kylie. What actually exists is beyond words. You can say it's the ultimate source. You can say it's God. You could say it's Sat Chit Ananda. You could say it's Parabrahman. You could say it's the divinity, the oneness, whatever you choose to call it. And we're all manifestations of that, Everything is manifestations of that. But it's the same thing with my dog. Like, my dog seems to think that it is a separate entity from me. So do the cats outside. You run towards them, they take off running, or you put out food, they come up. Because of these avatar bodies, the cats, the dogs, and myself, we all believe that we're inside these bodies and we're surviving this world. But it's actually causes and conditions. This egoic self, this Kylie, this dog, this cat, the egoic conditions make us believe that we are inside these bodies. And so that's kind of a weird way around what Robert is trying to say, right? Robert just tells us over and over and over that this is a dream, and you could say that everything is a manifestation of our minds. He says in this chapter, until I lost my voice, that you're dreaming. You need to wake up. Everything is a manifestation of your mind. Everything that you can constantly believe or think of is just a manifestation of your mind. But when he says your mind, he's not talking about Kylie's mind. He's talking about God's mind. You are a manifestation of God's mind, and you are God. You are manifesting this world. You are creating the Kylie, you're the planets, the exploding stars, the sunshine, the mountains, the trees. You are that God dreaming this world. So it's not the little me. It's not the little mind. My little mind is not manifesting this world. It's that I am that universal mind, that supreme mind. I am that God mind that's dreaming up this world and this avatar. And the fun thing about dreaming up this world is all the characters in this world believe that they are separate from this world. And I too view the world as if I'm separate. I don't experience the world I am the universal mind. I experience the world as if I'm this avatar. And what gives me the illusion of the solidity, I think that I'm inside this body, is because actually it's this seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and feeling that creates the egoic self to experience those things. And so I think there's a little soul in here that is seeing and hearing and smelling. But it's actually the opposite. It's the seeing, hearing, and smelling that is creating this experience of an observer or somebody to experience those things. And so then when I get past that feeling, that when I see through that illusion and realize that is being created, that thing is being created, that's not really who Kylie is, and that voice that's going on in my head at all times saying that this is not right, that something went wrong, that I'm not good enough, I haven't gone far enough in life, I need to lose weight, I shouldn't have done this, I should do this. I regret this. I'm hopeful about that. I wish I could have been a better father. I wish I could have been a better husband. I wish or I was the greatest father ever, or I was the greatest husband ever, whatever comes to my mind that day. Either punching myself in the face or patting myself on the back or being neutral, whatever thoughts arise. That those thoughts are also not me. Those thoughts are causes and conditions of being inside an avatar. And the avatar is trying to survive in this dream. And the only way that it can survive is to be constantly talking. Because if it's not constantly talking, then I don't need it. And if I don't need it, I'll step back and see that I am not that egoic mind. And that it's actually an illusion. That it's just a brain generating thoughts nonstop to stay busy. So it'll have a job. So I don't lay it off. So I don't fire it. So as long as that little voice in my head can make me believe that it is truly myself, then it can stay employed. But as soon as I get past that and I realize that there's dream thoughts in a dream, talking to a dream character about dream events and dream situations, and that I'm actually the mind that is projecting the entire world and the entire galaxy and the entire universe. Takes a bit to get there, but once you get there, it's at first it's terrifying. At first it's kind of terrifying. At first it's scary to feel like emptiness or hollowness, or that I don't exist in the way that I always thought, that there is no real Kylie, and that this body is just one of many avatars that I'm using. in this so-called game, Maya. First it's shocking, and then you realize, oh, well, nothing has changed except for my perception. I have always been that universal source. I have always been the supreme source. I've always been God. I have always been Parabrahman. I've always existed. This entire universe could explode and I would still exist. You know, we could be in famine, we could be in drought, we could be in meteor, could hit the world, the oceans can rise, the earth could freeze, or it could burn, and nothing could kill me. I am the dreamer of this dream. And yet I still perfectly view the world from this avatar. And I am embodied. I go to work. I love my children. I love my grandson. I love my stepsons and my daughters and my wife. And I pay the bills. And all these things I do fully embodied in this avatar. So Robert says, from the outside world, you don't know if somebody is self-realized or not. And I'm not saying that I'm self-realized at all. I'm just saying that Robert is saying that the things that are going to happen to you in this dream are going to happen. That you've been put on a course. It's almost like being a non-player character, kind of. That you're going to, if you're born to be a banker, if you're born to have 3 marriages, if you were born to become a soldier or whatever it is, like the Bhagavad Gita says, everyone has a dharma. And in that dharma, it looks like karma is real. And it also looks like all these decisions are being made that is sending us down all these paths. But in reality, it was all preordained. A Course in Miracles says that when we separated it, the illusion is that we separated from God in an instant, and then it was over in a flash. But we're still in that flash, that it took a nanosecond. It was like we were a thought in God's mind of separation. And as quickly as that thought happened, it dissipated. But we're still living in that flash. So everything that ever could have happened, ever will happen, already happened. We're just having to walk it out in real time to us and our avatars. It feels like time is happening linearly, sequentially. But in reality, it flashed and it was over, that everything already happened to us. In the dream. The dream already happened, it ended. But we feel like minute by minute, second by second, hour by hour, month by month, year by year, is how we perceive it as the dream characters. But we step back and we realize that we are the ones that had that dream, and yet very much still have to live out these lives in these avatars, and go to work and pay the bills and take care of your children and love people and help people and be a blessing. All those things feel very real. And Robert says the only thing that we can change is how we perceive it. So the Kylie is come here and is predestined to do all these things. And this Kylie will be a banker a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, and do whatever it's going to do here. But then I can be aware of the dream, or I can be asleep and believe that I am the Kylie doing these things. I can observe the Kylie doing these things, or I could believe that I'm the Kylie doing these things. That's the power that we have of in our perception. All right. Well, once again, I love you. Be well.